Hi, and welcome to a special edition of the Diaspora Hustle, where accountability meets politics head-on. This is about Power Pack discussion from Joy News that was recently aired on the 7th of May, 2025, where two political heavyweights, and you know the person I'm talking about, the one and only Sammy Awuku of the NPP, and Felix Ofosu Kwakye of the NDC, go head-to-head on the much talk about 120-day social contract scorecard. So, my question is, what has the ruling government really achieved since the president's promise? What does the opposition make of the numbers, the policies, and the impact on ordinary Ghanaians? Is it progress or, as usual, propaganda? Performance or politics? So be ready and buckle up for sharp analysis, bold claims, and a verdict that might just shape the conversation ahead of 2028 elections. So stay tuned.
Because and as far as the natural resources is concerned, they talk about the ban illegal mining, the Blue Water Initiative has been launched, but there are fundamental questions about the state of our river bodies and the fight against illegal mining. That's still a big issue. We'll come to that. We'll come and discuss
one thing that we don't talk about. That
yeah, we'll come. Let's sit and expand that. So that's a verdict.
Yes.
So the quick three key verdicts for you is...
One, the president has made good progress on all the promises, because apart from two, he's touched on every one of them, and 50% of them he's been able to fully implement, which is good progress. However, the initiatives that he's implementing, most of them are not laying the right foundations to address the structural challenges in the various sectors that they are implementing.
So they are ticking the boxes, but not addressing the fundamental challenge.
Not addressing the fundamental challenge. So what is likely to happen is that we may create a lot more fiscal challenges for ourselves, because some of these are going to be expenditures that must continue. And that if revenues do not grow and we are not innovative in strengthening and broadening our economy, considering the crisis ahead of us from 2027 and 2028, we are going to face much more challenges.
Yeah, and you make a very important point. Most of the flagship programs will impose additional fiscal stress.
And we were just talking about the challenges the Student Loan Trust Fund may face if budget allocation to them is not increased. Another challenge is that some of the investment that is going to be done must be properly targeted in high-impact areas. So that
which is the point we made earlier. But fundamentally, if you're just joining us, the president just finished addressing the nation. He's assessed himself. He scores himself 100%. But this is the Imani assessment. Fully completed is 50%. Those in progress is 42%, and just 8% left to be done. They haven't touched at all. Right after this break, I'm going to be joined by Felix Kwakye. He's the Chief Government Spokesperson. You have Sammy Awuku with me here in the studio. You have Franklin Kuju also here with me in the studio. We're now going to get into the analysis and hear the alternative view from the NPP, and then get some clarification still from the government spokesperson. Stay with us. Special PM Express. The president finished his assessment of his own 120 days. He did not mention a particular score, but from everything he says, it appears to have scored himself 100%. And we have in the studio with me, as you may have already noticed from the conversation we started earlier, we have Sammy Awuku, and we have Felix now joining us, the Chief Government Spokesperson. Franklin is still with us, and Dennis as well. I guess, Felix, if you don't mind clarifying for us, because it is very quantitative, really, because it was, first of all, was it 25 or 26?
It's actually 26.
Okay.
26, yes.
26. And
but Felix agrees that what was printed from their website is 25.
No, it's 26. There's one on a law
but you're not
to regulate
that this was good. I'm only asking just for clarity. It's not just not a banter. But I just want us to be factual on this matter.
The manifesto was launched publicly. Everybody heard him. Everybody who listened to the president would know that he recited 26.
It was 26.
What you are saying is...
So the president personal score is
the one that is missing in Sammy's document is the one on the salvage vehicles.
That is a fair point.
That is all. So there's really no issue, actually. The president addressed it.
But I guess just to acknowledge his point, that one is also missing. So that's what he has.
Yeah, but the president has just delivered an address.
Let's go to the substance.
He listed 26.
Yeah, let's go to the substance of that.
The president is the most authoritative voice in government.
Based on what we heard, he appears to have marked himself 100%. Because now everybody's putting him, everybody's assessing. We gave him 52, Imani gives him 50. If you listen to the MPP before, as I spoke to the Deputy General Secretary, they said it was 46. The president gives himself 100%. Is that a fair conclusion?
I don't think that he was immodest enough to give himself
100%. Okay.
I think that it is fair to say that we have touched virtually every promise that we made. There are some of the promises that involved processes that the public is unaware of because of the way that they are done. One example is the setting up of the Ghana Scholarships Authority. I was in cabinet on 16th April when the minister brought an amendment bill which seeks to set up this authority and streamline the award of scholarships and address the problems that the president highlighted. The public is unaware of this. So you would say that it has not been done, but it has been done. The final solution to that lies in the hands of Parliament, not the executive. So the executive has done its part. But because Parliament is not in session, there's little you can do about it until they return. So that is being done. The bit about 24-hour economy, there are many things that are happening. I have been in cabinet, several briefings have been made. I've seen the plans that they have. I've seen what they've done. Indeed, Mr. Guzitano, and my brother would admit, I don't know whether he was there on that day, but he has actually briefed Parliament on the processes leading up to where we are. There's a proposed amendment to the GIPC Act. There's one to the Labour Act, and there are other things that are being done. So these things, because you may not know or be aware of.
And then purging the security agencies of.
Absolutely.
I think he just.
That one has been done. Indeed, and you know that some of the security agencies don't operate in the public glare. The armed forces, for instance, have set up, a team to look at that. The Interior Minister inaugurated one. National security. At the very least, the likes of Double and Co are no longer with national security. And you can classify them among those who fall within the category of what we say we will purge the security agencies off. So these are not matters.
Double was part of the Ayawaso as well.
His name is Akumia, his official name. But he was one of the thugs that the NPP recruited to.
Yeah.
He's no longer there.
It was very famous at the time we did the Ayawaso by-election.
It was actually famous, not famous. But he's no longer there, for instance. So these things are happening. The military will not report on these things.
So just for clarity, what's the score then as far as government is concerned?
Well, you can, when you look at the presentation the president presented, you can say that 20 of them have been done. 5 are in progress.
Okay.
But they are in progress to the extent that what you need to bring it to finality lies in the hands of other agencies that you don't necessarily control.
So one of them you haven't done at all. You haven't touched.
No, there's none that we haven't touched.
So it's 20 all of them done. Yes. 5 in progress. That makes it 25. Then that's the one. That's
no, even that has been touched. Okay. That one involves a law on salvage vehicles.
Okay.
Because you know that there was a ban on it in favor of local assembly.
That we can confirm you've begun something.
Sometimes, indeed, it's the trade ministry.
So then let's do the math for me. If
the trade ministry, the trade ministry that is handling that.
Yes, we actually said it.
Absolutely.
We actually said it.
It is something that you can say.
You can say it's in progress. Yes. So if it's according to the government, if 20 has been done, 6 in progress, what it brings the percentage to what?
Somewhere around 79 to 80, because each promise should be around 3.9 or 4.
Okay.
If there are 25.
Give me the exact so that we can, at least it gives us a sense of what.
79 or 80.
79, okay. 80.
And indeed, it's also crucial to know that some of the promises are composite. For example, the one on social intervention involves a lot. There are some of them that have as many as 6 or 7. And all of them have been done. So in terms of weighting, you may want to assess that.
Some of them will weight more than others.
Some of them will weight more than others. And so, they come with significant capital outlay. They involve a lot of money running into billions.
But you said 19 billion, some of the flagships, you put it together in your report?
19 billion, if you add a big push.
Yes. So stay with me. I just wanted to establish that. Sammy, now we have some clarity. Government's assessment is 75, 80%.
Okay, so first of all, let me get into the meaty details.
Yes, the specifics.
The 120 days of President Mahama. I'll be dealing with the issues contained in their social contract and even issues outside the social contract because it's still within the 120 days. It is important to also establish that within this last 120 days, we've also experienced considerable level of this power outages. It's important to put that into perspective. Secondly, within the last 120 days, we've also experienced over 21,000 young people, and in excess of that, losing their jobs through reckless termination of appointment, and some even going as far back as 3 years into their contract. These are ordinary Ghanaians. Again, also within the last 120 days, we've had the government establishing clearly, and even through its budget for 2025, that there's going to be a ban on public sector recruitment. This was also contained in the finance minister's presentation of the budget of the president to Parliament. Now, and also, if you talk about constituting the leanest and most efficient government under the Fourth Republic in the first 90 days, I find that interesting. Felix, more or less, is occupying a position that, to all of us within the space, is like the Minister for Information, more or less, per his role. Not a single chief director has been fired, or the architecture of the ministries that they claim they have merged, none of them. Can you tell me that because now you've scrapped the Ministry of Information, the ISD, you've had a whole office template being changed and all that. So clearly, you cannot say that the fact that you've merged constitutes, a considerable reduction in terms of the burden on the taxpayer. In fact, when Kojo Nkrumah MP was Minister for Information, the extra money he had on his salary, because he was MP and minister, was just around 2,000 cedis. So that cannot be a significant saving in any way. Again, it's also important for me to establish within this within the first 120 days of President Mahama, that if you take this document that talks about his social contract, mm-hmm. And Franklin said something from the onset. Was it Franklin or was it Sarah? He said the way the language has been couched, it's very easy to tick the boxes. If you tell me that within the first 14 days, I'm going to complete the list of cabinet ministers for parliamentary approval, this is the prerogative of the president to make the appointment, to form your government. It's good you were able to form it early and Parliament cooperated to get them through. However, holding a national economic dialogue, beyond that, what happened? And then if you talk about, establishing,
Imani's analysis says some of the recommendations had now found its way into the budget and into the government official
within
policy.
the 120 days. Yes. I'm going by what is contained in the
So they did the
convening.
Dialogue, but in substance, the recommendations fed the budget. Yeah. And if implemented, in fact, legislation has actually been passed.
The PFM Act.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just to...
We've had the PFM Act had been in place before the NDC came into existence.
The amendment.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying, that so it's not new. And let me also put on record again, and for the avoidance of doubt, that you've convened a stakeholders engagement or meeting as far as the education sector is concerned. You take a box. But the very meaty ones that Felix and the NDC was in opposition, they were also very vociferous about talking about, let's go to the mining sector. During the campaign, and within the first 120 days, the NDC themselves, I think it's in point 19. Yeah. Ban illegal and new mining activities in forest reserves. Roll out Tree for Life and Blue Water Initiative to heal sustainably, harness and blah, blah, blah. You go into that. Evans, Joy FM, multimedia. You've been very loud on this matter to the extent that you've had NDC constituency chairman, even in a scuffle with security operatives when excavators were seized. Again, just not too long ago, multimedia and through Erastus also reported that an organized small-scale mining company had their premises seized by operatives of the national security, and now party foot soldiers are being asked to mine in there. For who? And not a single, I listened to the president also very well. I can tell you for a fact that not a single initiative has been undertaken by the government, which will be new to what existed in the past. And I'll tell you why. If you talk about Chamfan and these mining equipment being seized and burnt, it was happening before the NDC got into office. If you also talk about seizure of these excavators, these things were happening. If you're talking about security officials, the police, the military, being in the mining areas and driving them out, it's nothing new because it existed before.
What about tracking of the excavators?
Well, but we had all these ones there, but that is not even the point. The NDC were very clear in the promises that they also made, and I'll take in that. One, declare state of emergency. The NDC backed the call for a state of emergency while in opposition. And the then candidate, now President Mahama, was very loud and clear on that matter. Number two, ban all forms of small-scale mining for a while. That hasn't been done. So how do you score yourself?
All forms?
All forms. I'm not the one saying it. It's contained in there.
Where? Is it the manifesto?
Oh, but these were things that they said.
No,
it's
but
not new
it's
to you.
important.
It's not new to you.
No,
they never said that.
No,
on your own PM Express, you've interviewed people even within that.
No, but I want to be specific because there's what they included in the manifesto.
Free all arrested Galamseyers and give them back their seized excavators and go after the kingpins. Are you saying you never heard this?
No, but you see, it's not about whether I heard or not. It's about also pointing us to who said it. We need to hold somebody to street proof. So who actually
Mahama,
make that
President
point?
Mahama said, we are going after the wrong people in the Galamsey fight. He said the kingpins are out there and we are instead going after these small-scale miners. And when he becomes president, he's going to ensure that there's amnesty for all arrested Galamseyers. And then we go after the kingpins. And you didn't hear this?
No, that he said.
Yeah, that's what I'm
talking about the other ones you said. I don't recall hearing anybody say that.
Repeal
the ally.
The ally that allows for mining in our forests. This evening again, I heard the president. He said, it's before Parliament for us to amend. You know, let's be clear.
To take away his power. To give the permission for mining in forest reserve.
If we are to also go by the very document that was sold to us for us to analyze. In fact, in any case, it's a social contract. You are supposed to go by it, respect the very dictate of what you told us you were going to do. In fact, you can have a candidate for president who will not give himself a 120 days for you to score me. He can go with the extent that the first 6 months I'll come give a full accountability of what I've done. So once you give yourself 90 days, 120 days, you are asking us to judge you based on that. Yeah. Now let me go to the special import levy. This was a levy that was going to expire by 2025. The NDC in Parliament even wanted it to go beyond 2028. Now they've extended it from the 2025 expiration date to 2028. This is not a government. This is not what they promised us while they were in opposition. They were actually clear and very loud that, look, they believe this continued to burden the Ghanaian people. But let me score them good on the scrapping of the e-levy, the 1%. And Felix, you and your government, you've done well on scrapping that 1% e-levy and the 10% betting tax. That gives you 11%. Is that not it? They've done a good job. But behind, on our blind side, in the middle of the night, they've imposed 14% tariff increase when it comes to electricity. Again, they are also asking us to also pay additional 4% on water. If I do not stake Lotto, I'm definitely not going to be affected by 10% betting tax. Hope you know that. Again, if I do not engage in electronic transactions, there's no way I'm going to suffer from this 1% e-levy, whether it's in place or not. However, getting access to power and light is no longer a luxury, and every Ghanaian desires to have it.
So they rob Peter to pay for.
It's exactly what that's what I'm saying. I'm scoring them on the 1% e-levy. I'm also scoring them on the 10% betting tax. But if you add it, it's 11%. But they are asking me to pay 14% increment in electricity, 4% for water. That is clear case of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Again.
Finally, so I can hear from Felix, and then I'll come to Franklin.
I know Franklin wants to also make a comment, but I felt that you would have allowed me on the on the COVID-19. At least I'm in minority here. Allow me some.
No, there are only two politicians.
I'm saying I'm in minority. Am I not an opposition MP?
You are a mighty minority.
So if you check the panel and I'm in majority here, you will know. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, we are equal actually. Because it's one.
Let me allow that. Yeah. Again, on the issue of the COVID-19 levy, I really do not understand what the government meant by saying that, oh, there's a whole tax reforms and all that they are looking at. Others were scrapped. So if you are going to take a holistic view of your taxes and how to reform the tax sector, it's a different matter. We've also experienced some interesting development with our currency. And I don't know if I'm going to have a second bite or you want.
Yeah, you will. The currency is a big one because I think it fits into the economic achievement like 120 days. Because it's doing some magic in the last few weeks. Felix, forgive me. So what's your verdict? What's your score?
On the currency as well, you wanted to make.
Yeah, but I'll come back. I want to come back. I want to come back to that. So what's your score?
Well,
having done an assessment?
honestly speaking,
what will you give?
What I have, the document that we have here was technically about 25 promises, but Felix is saying that I think one was omitted. Let me even say, so let me stick to the 25 that I used for the analysis. And I can see that they fulfilled 11.
Okay.
They also partially fulfilled 2, and they failed to fulfill 12. So if I'm able to do that analysis and comparatively, I think they score about 48%. Okay.
So 48 is not, is a pass? Is it a pass or a fail? What is it, the academics, frankly?
You asked me of a score.
It's a minor pass.
So that's your
Joy FM Multimedia decided to give 52.
Yes. So that's your 48.
did 50.
50. You are
I've given you my analysis of 48.
48, okay.
Discuss President Mahama's first 120-day commitment. So it is important that we stick to the subject. I mean, for someone who wants to grade another person, he is not even complying with the rubric of the examination. So he, in fact, is going to get 0 if any strict invigilator takes a script. You see, the fact is that President Mahama made specific commitments. So in order to assess him, you look at what he said and weigh it against what he has done. That is the only way you can make meaning of this discussion. All the extraneous matters Sammy raised are matters that you can discuss elsewhere when you come to discuss the overall performance of government. But here, we are talking about the 120-day promise. That is what the president made a speech about. So let me address them. And I would like to address from the standpoint of some of the claims he made in respect of the specific promises. The thing he said about electricity tariff, and I'm surprised that Sammy would do this. You see, duplicity must leave public discourse. He was in government. Their government went to the IMF for an extended credit facility. Anytime they went to take a tranche of that facility, there were specific benchmarks that they needed to tick off. The last review they did before we came to power, if you check page 71 of the memorandum that the IMF has published on its website, they agreed as a precondition to taking the $336 million that they took gleefully sometime in December 2024. That in the following year, there will be quarterly adjustment of electricity tariff. It is captured on page 71. So you go and make a binding agreement that we cannot pull from. Because the IMF, they don't deal with political parties, they deal with governments. So the agreement you sign with the IMF is binding on any government that takes power. So we come in and we have no option than to respect the agreement that you've reached. And you turn around and say that we have robbed Peter to pay Paul. How did we do that? It is not an honest assessment of the situation. So if Ghanaians are paying 14% more tariff than they are doing, it is because the MPP said that that should be the case. They signed it. There's nothing you can do about it. It is rigid. The moment you flout that, the IMF program goes out of the window. And the moment it goes out of the window, you know exactly what will happen.
But I'm keeping them honest. You know, in opposition, John Mahama also said... Felix.
Yes.
John Mahama also said...
Claire, you know that this...
John Mahama also says you would attempt to have another conversation with the IMF on the program.
Of course, but the conversation...
So that is one of the areas that you yourself have said in the opposition that is something you wanted to...
The conversation with the
take a second look at.
does not absolve us of our responsibilities and commitments under the program. There are consequences for breaching the agreement we've had with the IMF.
But you wanted to review. You wanted to have a constitutional review.
No. You discuss
the terms of the
program. You discuss aspects of the program that allow you to make adjustments. But if you've gone to take money and committed to do ABC, you cannot run away from it only because governments have changed. So that must be made clear. So when he comes to sit here and pretends that it is the doing of President Mahama, he's not being honest. Unless he is disputing that his finance minister went for this review and agreed on this. The second point also is that this propaganda about lean government and no significant saving must stop. Look, when we came to power, President Mahama said that he would even appoint 60 ministers. As we speak, he has 56, which is actually lower than what he said he would do. At a point in time under the MPP, there were 125 ministers. And Sammy knows what it costs to maintain one minister. Samson, if you put everything that a minister gets together, the vehicles, the houses, the salaries, the allowances, and all the facilities, we are talking close to 15 million Ghana cedis in the 4 years that we have a minister in place. Multiply that by 125 and do the math. So if you have 56 ministers, as opposed to having 125, and there's a difference of 69, by all means you make savings. There's no dispute about this. It is so straightforward that even unelected persons would understand. Again, He used me as an example. So let me also use my sector as an example. You see, at the Flagstaff House alone, where I manage communications, they had 28 people in the information management apparatus. Today we have 7. He says that because chief directors have not been dismissed, no, we have saved nothing. What has happened is that all those people who were there, 76 of them, directors and other staff, at the Ministry of Information, they have had to be reassigned. If they were not reassigned, we are going to have to employ new people in the places that they have been reassigned. Even today, one of them has been reassigned to the Community Water and Sanitation Division because they needed an administrator. If he did not exist or she did not exist, they were going to have to employ somebody. So that is a saving you make. Why? If 28 people were managing information at the presidency and today you have 7, Samson, wouldn't you make a saving?
You mean Evans?
Sorry, Evans, won't you make a saving? This is straightforward. So I don't know why they dispute what is obvious and what is so glaring. Look, if you look at the budget of the Office of the President alone, if you take goods and services and capital expenditure, almost 420 million Ghana cedis has been saved compared to last year's budget. And it is simply because of the numbers that have reduced. So this is a fact you cannot run away from. Again, he speaks about the impact of the National Economic Dialogue on this our budget. And I'm happy that our colleagues from Imani have made the point already. Today, out of the discussions on the National Economic Dialogue, we have set a debt ceiling that by 2024, our debt to GDP ratio cannot exceed 45%. Out of that, today, we have committed to running a surplus of 1.5% every year going forward, so that we stop this perennial habit of falling into deficits that impact our macro-fiscal framework. So these are tangible outcomes that you cannot dispute. Come to education, for instance. The president highlighted that because of the educational consultation forums that have gone on, we have received in excess of 2,000 proposals. 20,000 Ghanaians have been interviewed to assess what they think about free SHS. Next month, or I beg your pardon, later this month, the report of the National Education Forum will be made public. And you will see the impact that it will have on education policy going forward. So nobody can sit there and see that that forum, that consultation was not useful. It was very useful. Now let me come to the issue of illegal mining. Again, Samson, we are discussing the 120-day contract that President Mahama signed with the people of Ghana. So if you want to assess his performance on that, you look at the specific wording. Sammy has a document in front of him which reads, ban illegal and new mining activities in forest reserves.
Actually reading his document.
Yes, because I'm using this as reference because the facts are here and yet he's saying something different. Roll out our Tree for Life and Blue Water initiative to heal and sustainably harness the environment by turning areas and water bodies degraded by illegal mining into economic and ecological recovery hubs. Samson, which of these have we not done?
You mean Evans?
So I beg your pardon. I don't know why I keep on calling you Samson. Forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me. Yes.
He came with something in mind.
There's something called scotoma. Your eyes see what your mind was.
I know.
Now, which of these have we not done? He's an MP just like myself. On 20th March, he sat in Parliament and witnessed the laying of LI 2462, which seeks to remove the power that allows the president to grant concessions into forest reserves. Indeed, the Attorney General proposes that there's a more robust way to do this by amending the Minerals and Mining Act, Act 703, to completely prohibit forest reserves as places where you can mine. So there's robust legislative work going on to ensure that this promise that President Mahama has made comes to fruition. Again, Evans, the Tree for Life initiative, on 21st March, I was with the president in in the Ashanti region, to launch it, where we expect to use afforestation or reforestation as a way of safeguarding the environment. The Blue Water Initiative, you've seen 2,000 young men and women clad in yellow and black uniforms who have been recruited. Now, people erroneously think that these are people who are going to face off with the armed bandits operating in the forest. No, that's not what they are going to do. They are going to be around the water bodies to help with fact-finding and getting in touch with appropriate authorities to respond to persons who seek to degrade the environment. So all these things have been done. And yet, Sammy is here saying that it has not been done. In fact, you recall that one of the first steps we took when we came into power was that we revoked all mining leases that we believe were granted irregularly. You recall that directive. That was a first step towards ensuring that people don't secure these leases and misuse them. Again, governmental complicity in Galamsey, which was one of the reasons why they could not fight it, is no longer the case. Why? We know about the original chairman and women organizers and other things.
But we've also had accusations.
Yes, but
that
this
some
is
of your
something
own are also involved.
I can assure you, President Mahama has made it clear that you cannot use the name of the NDC or membership of SIN as reason why you go into that. The matter that he refers to in respect of some people who purported to be using national security as a conduit to do this, 6 people have been arrested in that respect. Indeed, only yesterday, I was at the German embassy, and I made the point that as we speak, 71 people are in the grips of the law for engaging in Galamsey. 150 excavators and other equipment, including pump action guns, have been confiscated by the state. When they were empowered, the last time excavators were given to them, did they not develop wings and fly? So there is a marked departure from what used to obtain. Of course, nobody said anywhere. President Mahama never ascribed a timeline for dealing with Galamsey. He never said he will get rid of Galamsey in 4 months, because you all know that it's an insidious problem that has gone on for years.
Except that because it's 120 days,
of course,
you ban illegal.
Of course, but that has been done. He has done what he needs to do.
Except the issue there is, how do you ban an illegality? The illegality is an illegality.
No, but the point is that you need legislation to strengthen your ability to deal with it.
We haven't seen any legislation.
But the legislation, the LI is being amended. It's in Parliament. 20th March, it was what? He was there. If I'm not telling you, you see. And then I've also told you that when Parliament comes back, the Minerals and Mining Act is also going to be amended to expressly ban mining activity.
Yeah, the president said that today.
In forest reserves. Yeah. So I don't know what else was.
Frankly, I'll come back to you. Frankly, on the subject of the substance of what the president said he's done, you raise a fundamental question about overall, this must have economic benefits to us.
Oh, indeed.
It must. It's not just about ticking about. There must be clear outcomes that at the end of the day we can measure them by, not just say you tick the box. You assess the 26. Do they deliver on these in a way that is very substantive, that delivers economic benefits, that will transform this economy? And I saw that word in your analysis, transformative. Are these transformative enough?
Well, it looks to me that some of the flagship interventions essentially are going to cost us that much. I mean, if you combine the one that has to do with the employment, the 1 million, the
quotas, 1 million quotas,
the Jumaura, and all of those comes to about 19 billion cedis, right? If you included the big push, 19 billion. Now, that's money we are going to spend, right? It's important that we get some return on that money, which is why we are saying that these interventions must have been rigorously assessed to ensure that there's some value addition to the economy. Because clearly speaking, if you're going to lose this, if you're going to spend 19 billion out of your funds, there must be a way of finding how you can raise that money back. No. For instance, if you undertook some public financial management reforms, that should also include alternatives or ideas where you can raise more money. If you wanted to invest, for instance, in the mineral sector, I mean, go back to the should I call it DAL, or those under the MPP, we had a situation where we couldn't add any significant assets in terms of, access to our oil resources. And I think it's important that the government begins to find ways and means of unlocking those opportunities to increase maximum revenue so that they can take care of some of these interventions. But the interventions themselves, while they cost money, we are saying that they must be assessed in such a way that we are looking at the productive elements out of them, productivity rather than just handing out money to these, what I call somehow freebies. So that's the challenge. There's something I wanted to say about some of the points Sammy made. Well, Sammy, to some extent, is right about the mining issue. I mean, it's clear that even though we accept that the president didn't say that he's going to necessarily repeal the law, I think activists have been asking for the repeal of the law, not just amend the law, right? People also thought that would have gone ahead to what's it called, state of emergency in all these areas and ensure that the right things are done. I think we cannot say that simply because the 120-day pact, even though it mentions mining, illegal mining, we should not talk about what I call the ancillary issues concerning the repeal of the law itself, as well as making sure that there's some state of emergency. I mean, these interventions are useful. I see that, and I see that the government is going to spend almost 50 million Ghana cedis in ensuring that these interventions
on the mining anti-galamsey,
which is much more than we've ever had before. So, if there's anything to be said about that, we have to make sure that because we are spending so much on it, we must get the proper results, and I think that is really important. But Sammy, it's important to also be clear that this, when the NDC, when the president decided to, reduce the number of ministries and ministers, we calculated that the money that automatically that was going to, for wages, just wages alone, that was going to be a savings of almost about 1.5 billion Ghana cedis in the 4-year term. I mean, if we added the fact that these ministers normally would also be enjoying what they call what the Article 71 holders enjoy, that was going to come to almost 3 billion Ghana cedis. So I think there's something to be said about savings there. I think these are some few points I want to make.
And Sammy, I know you want to come in, but you asked a question I need to clarify. No academic fee policy.
Yes.
You say it has been implemented, but no money has been paid.
Samson.
Evans.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Evans, because of I come here.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I get it. But no money has been paid. So why are you saying it's been achieved?
Oh, but the point is that government has done what it has to do. The point is that somehow the academic calendar got tweaked a bit. So normally students will go to school in September. August,
but they went in.
That's it. They went in January. At the time, we hadn't even read the budget, so there was no way we could.
But the budget has been read. Appropriation.
Yes, that is true.
Paid to the schools.
That is true, but you have to go through a process. First of all, you have to register the students. You have to know how many students are there. And the president gave details. Close to 500 million Ghana cedis has been devoted for this. It will cover over 150,000 students.
So you have the numbers.
So it's been done. Students have been asked to key in their details so that the money is dispersed. We are using the Student Loan Trust Fund because they have a system for such disbursement, and it will be done. So
when is it?
And then the government has done what it has to do.
Because if you haven't disbursed,
so once
Sammy's
we get,
point is that you can't
no,
take
but
that as complete. Evans, it's okay.
Evans, the point is this: that what else will government do beyond what it has done? Government has opened the portal since 2 weeks ago for people to key in their details so that the monies will be sent to them. Once you do it, it will be done. So there's really no way you can say that it has not been done. Money has been done, appropriation has been made, the system for doing so has been put in place. The onus lies on students to access it. That is what is ongoing at the moment. So I don't know why he wants to split hairs over this matter.
Well,
he was in parliament. He passed the budget, didn't he? He passed appropriation. So what exactly is he worried about?
Sammy?
No, I've been very quiet and admiring the quantum of lies.
Come on.
I'm telling you, I'm going to point it out.
Come on.
And the inaccuracies in the argument. So, first of all, Felix is now saying that because of the merger of ministries, the scrapping of ministries, is led to some significant savings, even within the office of the government machinery. This is factually inaccurate. What we spent in 2024, in 2025, we are spending a colossal amount of over 2.7 billion cedis for the running of the office of the government machinery.
More than you spent.
More than you spent in 2024. So the very accusation that indeed you've made savings is not reflected in the budget and the projections being made. That's point number one. Point number two, when it suits Felix and the NDC, they say, oh, the IMF has that we program. And so if today we've had increases in electricity tariff and that of water, is the doing of the MPP. This is laughable. The IMF's wording never said increment. It said adjustment. And who told you adjustment means that it's always increase?
But Sammy,
no, frankly,
hold on.
I beg you.
Hold on.
I waited patiently for him to. Okay, that's fine. You please go on.
I think
but it's only fair that when he's
you will. Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, that's
I think the point can be made really that there's a history to these adjustments. Mm-hmm. If you look at the debts that you guys left behind, they are humongous. So, Dennis, how much debt do we have in there?
Yes. So
then it means that we have to clear those debts and make sure that we still pay for. I mean, I also pay for electricity. I mean, recently I called the Achimota manager. I said, what is this? At the PRC, there's a technical person there. I said, the meter you gave me, it runs like more than Usain Bolt. I've been spending close to sometimes 80 cedis a day, and I don't understand it, right? But the explanation also is that, look, there's this debt that we need to clear, which is not the reason why the meters are running faster, by the way. But I think it is important to make the point that these adjustments that were mentioned in the IMF has its roots in the way the sector was managed.
Sammy?
Can I go on?
Yes.
Okay. Very interesting input from Franklin. So the NDC did indicate that, in fact, Franklin did even just stated that we left a humongous debt of 726.68 billion, right? If you look at the figures for 2024. If you check the projections for 2025, NDC is expected to spend beyond this by 56.90 billion per their own budgets that they presented to the House of Parliament. So which effort are they making to even reduce our debt stock? That is point number one. And let me get back to the issue that I was raising with the IMF matter. So when the IMF tells you that you also have to be adjusting tariffs, so it means that you have to be increasing. It can also even be reduction. But what I'm trying to point it out to them is that you were very quick to take the applause for the removal of the 10% on the betting and also 1% on e-levy. But I'm telling and pointing it out to you that, again, it was also part of even the IMF's own arrangement that of the betting tax remained. But so when it suits you, you take that one off and impose additional 14% on electricity and 4% on water. That cannot be glossed over. That cannot be swept under the carpet.
We also wanted to touch on the currency.
On the issue of the currency, there's something interesting happening. And I took the Bank of Ghana's gold reserves. That thanks to Dr. Bawumia, we started this gold purchase program in May 2023. And since independence, we only had 8.78 tons of gold as our reserves. At the time the NPP was leaving office, we had 30.53 tons of gold, meaning that we've added in excess of over 21 tons of gold. Okay. The NDC reports us at the end of April that it now stands at 31.37 tons of gold. This is according to the Bank of Ghana. I'm not the one faking it. Then let me take the majority chief whip, the Honorable Dafiame post that he made. Very interesting. It's here. He says that in January 2025, 6.17 tons of gold purchases and exports valued at $506 million. 2, February 2025, 6.55 tons valued at $571 million of gold purchases and exports. March, 7.81 tons valued at $699 million. And then April, 9.2 tons valued at $889 million. If you add this, it takes you to 29.73 tons. 29.73 tons of gold added to either our reserves or external. Interestingly, if you take the Bank of Ghana's own, the breakdown of what they've given us, they are only telling us that since January, only 1 point something ton had been added. What happened to the almost 18? Yeah, it is Bank of Ghana. Yeah, I'm giving you what Dafiame posted. And Evans, it's also not reflecting in your foreign reserves because Ghana's foreign reserves now stands at around $9.4, $9.5 billion worth of our gold. So it's neither reflecting in the gold reserves of the Bank of Ghana nor our international reserves. But there's something more interesting that I want Felix to also answer. If you multiply this 29.73 tons, worth about, in fact, if you calculate the tons, it takes you to 2 point, in terms of USD, if you add the January, February, March, and April, based on the post that was made by the chief whip, it takes you to $2.6 billion US dollars worth of our gold, purchased and export. Okay. If you multiply this by, let's say the exchange rate for today is 14.5 14.5 as the exchange rate today, it gives you a total of over 38.6 billion cedis. There are two things. Either government is only just using this exchange and what we get to show up our currency, which the Bank of Ghana has denied, that there is nothing artificial. It is because, in fact, the economists all over the world will tell you that the intervention of the central banks in the currency manipulation or showing it up.
You just explained that they've released $500 million, but it is to pay energy sector debt.
Okay.
Energy sector.
No problem. I have enough skin to also even debate that. The same IMF program that they are telling you not to go beyond $60 million worth of it on month-by-month basis. So clearly, even when it's used them, they are telling you IMF says we should do
so on the currency, are you claiming that it's artificial?
On the currency, I'm saying we are all happy to see the strength of our cedi. But mind you, there's a whole gamut of issues also happening within the global space. The U.S. trade tariff war with other countries and the diversion of traffic. And then, much more importantly, there's a huge suspicion that the gold that you cannot account for, the 29.73 billion tons, is either the revenue from it has been used to show up the currency because you cannot find it. It's neither stated on the Bank of Ghana's own breakdown because it tells you that they've only added one. But if you look at the post, they are telling you 29.73 tons.
Okay,
I find it very interesting.
Again, he's conflating gold exports with reserves. That's all.
Because
you see, he's conflating gold exports with reserves.
Oh,
that's what he's doing.
Let me make a point. The Fiame post is clear.
But he's talking about gold exports done by gold board.
Felix.
He's not talking about reserves added to the Bank of Ghana vote.
Felix, so the gold export that the Fiame post spoke about, where is that revenue?
When they export the gold, they get revenue. The Bank of Ghana gives them $1 equivalent. They take the That's how you build your forex.
The forex reserve.
Okay.
You are conflating two different matters. So gold borders.
It comes into your external reserves or what? Because it's not reflecting in your external reserves. That's what I'm telling you.
So no, but
that's what I'm telling you. Google it and check it. You see, check the latest figures.
Let him address.
You are creating the impression that if gold board buys gold, they go and give it to the Bank of Ghana to keep it in their votes. So you build their gold reserves.
No, they sell it.
Yes.
Gold board.
So let me
Bank of Ghana. The gold purchases.
Let him because in the sake of time, let him.
Yes,
when they go and purchase gold, they don't go and give it to the Bank of Ghana to put in his votes to build reserves. The Fiame gave you a monthly breakdown of gold exports and the revenues accruing thus far. That's all. So you are here conflating two things. You are expecting that the moment gold board says they have gold, they should reflect the Bank of Ghana's gold reserve. That is not the case. So for me, it is a moot issue. But then we come to this attempt to find solace under the wording of the IMF memorandum, which they themselves signed. You see, the adjustments take account of happenings in the previous quarter. So when Franklin speaks about the debt, they built up debt that you must adjust for in your tariff in order to clear. Otherwise, it adds on to the problems you have in the sector. That is all that has happened. But you were the ones who committed us to do so in the preceding year. After you went to gleefully collect over $300 million to put into your budget. And you are turning around to make it seem as though the NEC has done anything wrong and that we have done anything novel. You committed us to it. Deny that it was your finance minister who agreed. Is it not on page 71 of the memorandum the IMF has published? Anybody watching me can Google it and see. The other point,
Evans one said you increase.
Yes, but why do you think that there was no? But why
that is not there? So don't be
Evans. No.
They never stated that increase.
Why? Okay. Why was there the need for adjustment in the first place? In fact, what they also have not told you is that in September or so, they agreed with the IMF to do a major adjustment over 54%. In fact, the figure is actually there.
Major tariff
adjustment. So how could the IMF have foreseen an increase if it was just about either increasing or reducing?
You're making another point.
So he simply is being mischievous.
Yes, has been part of IMF's negotiation.
Sammy, I wanted to
how gives you the percentage upon which
how come you agreed to a September major tariff adjustment? What is it about?
Let's
you go and muddy the waters up north. Then you come south.
In the for the record.
I'm saying
that IMF,
no,
when
but
it comes to
factually,
adjustment,
factually, and
it's part of IMF's
factually,
yes.
the document says adjustment.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's
but it's also given the
but
context.
that is what
the context
within which you
the
agree.
context within which the adjustment was.
If they
only means definitely your losses.
Evans, if they anticipated reductions, they wouldn't even put it in the document.
Please address your final
point.
point.
It is to hold you to the adjustment to cater for the debt.
Please address your final
point. Now, again, this point about the budget of the office of the president, there's a hackneyed issue. We've explained it. But you know, they are big lie theory. Repeats the lie so many times that it sticks. It was defeated by the very person who proposed it, Goebbels. In the end, Goebbels, he shot himself dead when the when the Russians or the Soviets.
Felix, let
me make the point.
It's a significant thing.
So you can't repeat a lie and think that it will stick. First of all, you are an MP. You see, do yourself justice. Show respect to the people you represent by being factual. When you pick the budget, you know right away that, but for additional agencies that hitherto were not part of Office of Ghanaian Machinery, you only record that figure. Look, if you take our national security and the 3 agencies under me, ISD, GBC, and what have you, these 4 entities, and national security in any event is divided into 4. It has the research department, it has National Signals Bureau, it has the NIB, and National Security Secretariat itself. If you add these, they've added close to 12,000 employees to the Office of Ghanaian Machinery. So their compensation naturally would go up. This one is a no-brainer. But if you want to see where the savings are being made, you look at discretionary expenditure, which is goods and services and capex. That has reduced by 420 million Ghana cedis. Indeed, as I speak to you, national security has now been moved to the Interior Ministry. So when you look at the budget, you see that it is roughly 300 million Ghana cedis lower than what they paid in 2024. So this mischief is intended only.
Final word for all of us.
So,
but because we need to wrap up, Sammy. So today,
if you make
we have to wrap up.
All right.
So 120.
Sammy again or Felix.
Felix.
Yes.
Now he's infected me with this. Felix.
Yes.
So the 121 day has expired.
Yes.
Now what?
Oh, now.
So you believe you've ticked the box?
We've ticked the box.
So from the 121st day, as in tomorrow, what happens?
It shows that
President
Mahama has the needed credibility to continue to enjoy the support of the people of Ghana, because he said he would do things and he has done them. And these are far-reaching measures. Of course, it is only scratching the surface, we agree, because there's even a broader manifesto which we need to implement. So from the 121st day, we are going to zoom into doing things that ensure that we achieve the objectives that we set for ourselves in the manifesto. The ultimate aim is to ensure that Ghanaians enjoy a situation that is much better than what President Mahama inherited. And to the extent that he has shown from the onset that he means business and that he's going to fulfill the promises he makes, I think that people can continue.
Then it's just a big question now.
Yeah.
What next? What should the government be focusing on after the 121 days?
I think the focus should be two main things: high impact areas, structural reforms. Else the goals that they've set, either in their manifesto or the reforms they are seeking within the economy, will be hard for them to
Okay, Franklin.
Well, prudence, and I think what's the other word I wanted to use? Pragmatism should be the guard words for this government, and I think they may go far.
And I need to look in the crystal ball very briefly, because we've all experienced governments when they start in the first few months. They're very good in terms of saying the right things, ticking the right boxes, and rubbing us all off in very good ways. You give them a year and two, and then you begin to see, but where did all that good work, enthusiasm, goodwill, where did it all disappear to?
Well, which is why you and I have to keep watching. We'll continue our watchdog role, playing our watchdog role. We'll continue assessing them. I think we'll be back here next year.
We should.
1 year. To assess what they've done. It's the only way we can mobilize a lot of citizens to demand accountability. And I think it's the only way we can ensure that politicians...
Let me go to the mighty minority.
Well, Evans, I maintain that no administration scores zero. The very fact that they occupy even the administration means that at least they have to be doing something to help advance the cause of our welfare. Again, I want to also state, unequivocally, that I do not see much of the lean government. There are some appointments that never existed that has been added. And I can tell you, if you go to Tema PSC shipyard, there was no deputy. There's now a deputy. If you go to MIF, there was no deputy. There's now a deputy. And all these SOEs, make no mistake, they also have a way of affecting our national life and our economic lives as well. And last but not the least, today, when the NDC were contesting to win the elections, they knew that the academic calendar was definitely going to start beginning of the year. So if you're telling me that, oh, you came in and then...
what could we have done?
Felix.
We didn't even have a budget. How are we going to pay the fees?
So giving me that excuse now doesn't and then you're telling me that government has done what it has to do.
Yeah.
When? Up to date, I can tell you those students have received anything of that sort. And then finally,
yes,
I keep saying, and we maintain, that you took out 10% on the betting tax, 1% e-levy, and gave us almost 20% more.
So that is Sammy Awuku. Felix, thank you very much. Dennis.
I believe that was very interesting and powerful and also revealing exchange between Sammy Awuku of the NPP and Felix Ofosu Kwakye of the NDC, our two seasoned voices from political frontline. Whether you support the NPP or the NDC, like my good friend Mr. Nunu of the CPP, one thing is clear: Ghana deserves better. Ghanaians deserve transparency, delivery, not just about promises and leaders who cannot be held accountable. This 120-day scorecard gives us a lens to measure intent against action. So if today episode has challenged your thinking or has given you something to think of, to reflect on, please do share. Talk about it. And most importantly, stay engaged with us on the Diaspora Hustle platform. And you know what? Ghana future depends on all of us, including you, that you are watching me. At the end of the day, democracy thrives, not just on who holds power, but on how well they use it and how closely we, the people, are watching. This conversation are not just for our platform. It belongs to you, your household, and also to the community. So let's keep the dialogue going. My name is Wesley, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. Share and watch out for the next episode. Thank you.